Geog A to Z supporting the National Festival of Fieldwork from the Geographical Association. Do join in. Today is S for soil. So think about the areas near you where you can see soil. So often soil is covered by tarmac or concrete. So where are the locations near you? Maybe you're in the south of England and you've got vineyards like this. Maybe you've got parts of your school site where you can see bare earth. So when we think about the soil near you, it may well be in a park, it may well be well trodden, it may well be exposed, it may well be part of an old mine or a open cast area like this. So think about those different colours, the textures, the shapes. It's the exposure. Where can you see that human forces or physical forces have revealed the earth, have revealed what's underneath? Because it's a real story about what's under our feet that we want to try and get across to children when we're thinking about the earth. And you may well see it in examples like this, which are from abroad. So you may well look at images like this and think about the different colours. This is Gozo, just an island off the coast of Malta. But then, of course, you could also compare and contrast to places in this country. This is Kew Gardens a couple of summers ago. I'm sure in summer 2025 it'll be very similar to this, where the ground is really hardened, where the soil is really exposed, where the grass cover has been burnt off, where the ground has become really hardened. So we're really thinking about the growing material that plants and trees and everything that we need to live on Earth actually grows in. We're thinking about areas that might be exposed near the coast as well as by rivers, and you can see a meander here. So it's this distance between the land and the sea and the water and the land as well that we need to think about, as well as the fieldwork that you can do local to you in your school grounds. You may well connect it to erosion as well, because clearly our feet are often eroding pathways through the school as well. And think about the animals as well, the habitats that good tree cover, good bushes, good blackberries can provide in terms of the different food sources for different creatures that you might have near you as well. But we're thinking as well about what grows there. What can you have if you have good quality soil? And we're going to cover the different sorts of soil that you might well have today. So you may be in a more arable area, you may be in an area where you see hay bales, where you see rape, you may see other sorts of things growing near you, or you may be in an urban area where you have no fields at all. There's no sign or sense that farming is anything to do with you or your children. So it is that connection to the land, the physical geographical aspect, that when we're teaching about soil through Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2, we're really trying to connect to. It may be that it's very heavily grazed. It may be that trees have just been allowed to grow. Secondary forest has grown, like in this example from the northwest of England. But we really need to think about how that land is being used. Ultimately, soil is a story of land use, particularly around the urban fringes, around the green belt of our towns and our cities in the UK. But also think about the other different sorts of areas that the land is revealed to us. Think about the coastlines. Think about things like the coast at Dover here, the White Cliffs. This is still soil. This is still rock being exposed and being eroded. So we need to connect it to that story of the rock cycle as well to try and get that over to children. And try and show them amazing landscapes as well, upland areas like this just by Hadrian's Wall with the now sadly lost sycamore gap tree. So, what's soil all about? Well, it's about growing, as I've mentioned. No soil, no grass, trees, bushes, or flowers, no food. Everything that we eat and that plants need to survive for animal feed is going to provide us with sustenance. So, soil holds water and nutrients. We need to teach children that, and it helps them stay alive. And the root system is something that the plants need to be able to make them strong. Soil has mini beasts in it. We teach that all the time in science, and there's many times where this does bleed into conversations about how does this connect to science that you need to cover in terms of your curriculum planning. And within that soil, those mini beasts break down the plants and turn those into new food. So there's a real, again, cycle. There's a real story here of the cycle that we have within the green spaces. Many animals, rabbits, moles, badgers and foxes use the soil, some more than others in urban areas in particular, but burrows might be built, homes might be made in these areas that are more scrubby, more urban, more suburban in our locations. And soil is really important for helping clean the rainwater. So there's a link there, not just to the rock cycle, but also the water cycle as well. And we need to think about the flooding that's prevented if we have open soil and open areas in which we have the opportunity for that water to soak into. Of course, soil health is a big concern. This has just been published very recently by The Conversation, and I've taken the next bit of information from The Conversation. And soil health is a real challenge for the world. A third of the land surface is degraded. People are harmed by this, and unhealthy soil is a contributor to land degradation. Biodiversity is lost, harms plants and animals. Sand and dust storms in the kind of Key Stage 2 geography curriculum can be connected to in terms of how landscapes are being affected. And it helps and stops the planet's regulation of the climate and the water cycle. So there's a whole story here of food security and migration connected to the soil, connected to the land, and the land being useful and being usable, or not being usable because that soil has eroded or is not functioning in the same way as it used to. So let's get on to a resource, one great resource. Here we have soil detectives. So I'm thinking about my locality. What's the detective story that we need to think about in terms of where I'm living at the moment? And certainly I live in an area that has a number of locations which have a history of both watercress growing, but also lavender and mint, Mitcham lavender. And there are streets near here which are called lavender this and lavender that. And there are some signs that some of the estates near here, some of the big estates, are actually covering what we used to use to make some of these lavender products in the past. So an estate like this, in the 1930s, 100 years ago, we didn't use for arable land anymore. The land was of more value for putting interwar houses on it. So there may be a story like that near you. Maybe this represents an estate near you. What was that land used for before? Change in land use over time, covering the soil by new things, is something that we need to consider. And again, a London story that I can tell you is the loss of the acid grassland, one of the most protected grassland or lands, one of the most protected types of land in the whole of the UK, is now really useful for building on, and a lot of that grassland has been lost. So acid grassland in urban areas is a really protected space now, but hasn't been over time, and huge estates have been built on that in the past. So think about that story for you. So let's actually do some detective work with the children. Let's think about how you could use locations near you, by a tree, by an open grassy area, by the edge of a field or near a building, and collect samples, or collect samples for children, and then get children to look at the different types of soil and what's in those soil. We'll talk about the safety aspect towards the end, so you do need to bear that in mind. But what other local environments have you got that maybe you could get some soil from? And think about the colour, the texture, and think about the smell, and then do some comparisons between those. Maybe you'll have some compost as well. You can compare it to those sorts of other soils that you can get from a DIY centre. Think about wetness, dryness, think about colour. Can you roll it into a ball? Certainly clay soil you can do. Is it soil that falls apart very easily? That's sandy soil. Maybe add it to water and shake it to see how it settles. And then compare it maybe to other UK areas. You may be in one of these examples, and therefore your soil may be a little bit more like this. Certainly in Greater London, it can vary quite differently based on whether you're close to the centre or closer towards the edge of the city. There are certainly different stories of soil, different stories of the underlying land that you have in many places. So it might not be what you expect it to be. So some research will need to be done by you. And again, there's this connection to science, and the Oak resources can provide you some support there. There's a Year 3 lesson in Key Stage 2 on different types of soil, so some more support there. But as I said, the safety thing is something you really need to consider. So if you've never come across the advisory service for school science and art and design, I recommend you have a look at the safety notices there in terms of soil testing. So do get the expert advice. Think about how you can use resources to handle and to look at soil in the most appropriate way for your age group. Because, of course, the soils across the UK do differ because of that underlying rock, because of the land use today, and because of the climate. So you do need to have a story for the children, like I might have here, that the soil has been used for, and it's still used in some examples. It's not too far from me now of growing lavender. So this is a good area for growing lavender or mint, or near the water courses. It's still good for growing watercress, but we don't grow that there now. We grow these things in different ways, mostly. So just bear in mind these different sorts of soil near you. Do the research, find out whether you have a more clay soil, a sandy soil, a chalky soil, a peaty soil, or a loamy soil, because you can see that different foodstuffs, and it is really good to connect it to food, different foodstuffs grow there. And you can certainly connect this to Key Stage 1 curricula in terms of geography. Look at the different four nations of the UK by all means, and then think about the different predominant soil types there, and maybe think about what would grow there, what still does grow there. Certainly, if I just look at that list and I think about where do we get really great raspberries from, well, we get that from Scotland. And as you saw in the previous slide, that's the sort of land use soil type that we have there. Great story about sugar beet. If you've never Googled or looked at sugar beet or discovered the production of sugar beets and the amount of granulated sugar that's produced in the east of England and East Anglia, Norwich sort of area, do have a look at sugar beet and the story of sugar beet. Some great YouTube videos on sugar beet production. But you may have other stories as well near you. You may have pick your own type situations near you if you're in a more kind of fringe or rural area, but try and think about the sorts of things that does grow near you, that has a story about your locality. And that's a really important part of our geography as well. And then maybe do a compare and contrast what grows elsewhere in terms of where you study across your different curriculum areas. Tomorrow, the story is all about tallies, and our tally is the only way to collect and process data.